Are we on? Is it 9:15-ish on Sunday morning? It must be 9:15-ish. It must be time for the Sunday morning Science Mind class at CSLDallas. Are you ready? No, I am not auditioning to be the announcer for Worldwide Wrestling or Mixed Martial Arts or wherever they might say, are you ready to rumble? But I am ready to dive more deeply into the Science of Mind textbook and the writings of Dr. Ernest Holmes, and I hope you are too. Every Sunday morning at CSL Dallas, we take a little time to stop and reflect and explore what was Ernest Holmes talking about. And we go through the textbook sequentially. As you can see, we recently started over, so we are on page 56, in the middle of the page. That's where we are going to start. And partly I want to start there because it allows us to, I won't say review, but remember some of what has come up in the last few weeks and then build on it. So we are in introductory chapter 4, and the title of this chapter is How to Use It. How to use the power of the mind, how to use spirit. And we've already looked in previous chapters about what is it? What are we talking about when we are talking about spirit or God or the universe or love, whatever word most resonates with us. And Ernest Holmes calls that the thing itself, life itself, life with a capital L. And then what does it do? Like, what is its purpose? And in this chapter, how we can use that. How we can use that to create the lives that we want to live. So in the first few pages of this chapter, he just really reminds us, I could go back to this line every week for the next year. One of the great difficulties in the new order of thought is that we are likely to indulge in too much theory and too little practice. And some of you are shaking your heads because you remember that from 2 or 3 weeks ago. But like I said, I could put that like maybe on my mirror and read it and reread it every day, because we are a part of Centers for Spiritual Living, which means we have to do something with what we know. Otherwise, we probably don't really know it or truly believe it. So this chapter is all about going into practice and not indulging in more theory than practice. So on page 56, I'm going to begin with, right in the middle, let us return to the person who really wishes to demonstrate the supremacy of spiritual thought over material resistance or the material experience, right? So let's think of ourselves as someone who really wishes to demonstrate the supremacy of using our mental thinking more so than reacting to whatever is happening in the material world. And then Ernest Holmes basically writes a spiritual mind treatment, a mental treatment, an affirmative prayer that locks in that spiritual thought is more powerful than reaction to the material world. And the first line of it is this: I am a center in the divine mind, a point of God-conscious life, God-conscious truth, and God-conscious action. My affairs are divinely guided and guarded into right action, into correct results. Everything I do, say, or think is stimulated by capital T, truth. There is power in this word I speak because it is of the truth and it is the truth. There is perfect and continuous right action in my life and in my affairs. All belief that I might have in wrong action is right here dispelled and made negative. Right action alone has power. Right action is power, and power is God, the living Spirit Almighty. Now, this prayer goes on for another equivalent of almost another page. It goes into the next page. And if you have the Science of Mind textbook, I highly recommend that you bookmark or earmark page 56 and 57 and read the entire treatment. Not just read it once, but read it over and over and over until you really believe it's about you, that you are putting a claim on the universe, that you are a center in the divine mind, and that this power is your power. Many of us often quote Ernest Holmes in another place where Ernest Holmes says, there is a power for good in the universe. It is available to all, and I can use it, or we can use it. Makes sense, right? And this chapter is how to use it. So this treatment is one that at different times, from the last two paragraphs of page 56 through the top paragraph on page 57, just reading it over and over and over again will shift you into that place of knowing and understanding. So after he writes this treatment at the top of page 57, first full paragraph, he says, the truth is instantaneous in its demonstration, taking only so much time as its unfoldment is taking only such time in its unfoldment as is inherent in the law of a logical and sequential evolution. Translation: the shift or the truth instantaneously happens. It says yes. The universe says yes. That's where you're going. That's what you are claiming for yourself. Yes. That's what you want. That's your intention. Yes. That's instantaneous. What we experience as, why is it taking so freaking long? Is that the answer is yes immediately, and most of the time there are physical things that have to happen for it to show up in our lives. So it may be that parts of my body need to remember how to communicate with each other in order to create the level of health that I want. It may mean that if someone is setting an intention to be in a loving, healthy, committed relationship, it may mean that the universe instantly says yes, and two things are happening, three things. One, the right partner might be living 2,500 miles away, and there has to be some way for you to connect to. The universe says yes, but you are still giving contradictory messages, so you are still working on believing it's possible. Or 3, the other person is close at hand, but they're working on believing it's possible. So, right, the universe says yes. It demonstrates a yes, but it takes only such time as is inherent in the law of a logical and sequential evolution or demonstration. It's not that the universe is, I don't know, has Kay been doing her prayers the last 3 months? I'm going to wait till she's praying every day. Or, did Catherine suffer enough yet? Oh, I'm going to let her. It's none of that. Like, that's all stuff we make up, thinking that this universal infinite intelligence is like a human being and is making judgments and choosing good or bad. No, this infinite intelligence is neutral and committed to be responsive to that which we claim and declare individually and collectively. And so the answer is yes, the demonstration is instantaneous. Next paragraph, Ernest Holmes writes, healing and demonstration take place as our minds become attuned to the truth of capital B, being. There is no process of healing, but there is generally a process in healing. This process is the time and effort which we undergo in our realizations of this truth. Now, for some of you, if you were with us last week, that's really kind of where I ended last week, but it was so crammed in at the end of some really rich conversation. I was like, no, we have to go back there, because people get confused when we say there is no process of healing, but there is generally a process in healing. Like, Tracy, it sounds like you're speaking English, but please translate that for me. So the process, there is for spirit, for infinite intelligence, for the wisdom of the universe, it doesn't need a process, right? It has created everything. It is creating everything right now. It will always be creating. So for it to say, oh, this is what you want. Can't snap that finger, right? This is what you want. It is done. It is done. It is done. There is no process. It is done. Like, can you say that with me? It is done. There is no process of healing or revealing the truth, right? There's no process at the divine, at the level of the divine. There is a process in healing, which is the time and effort we undergo in realizing this truth. So when we talk about the process, we are talking about the human side. And we are in the process of healing whatever it is that is the condition we want to change. That could be physical, healing our physical body, but it also could be healing our attitude about life. It could be the process that we are in as we heal our movement from trauma to joy. If someone has been in addiction and they're in recovery now, they are in a process, but it's on the human side. The moment that person said, I no longer want to drink or take illegal drugs or shop or eat uncontrollably, the moment that they said, I am now committed to healthy mental and physical experience, the universe said yes. So there's no process of healing on the spiritual side, but there is a process that we go through on the human side. Does that make any sense? Is that helpful? Or you're like, Tracy, we knew what you meant the very moment you read it. Yeah, Steve is like, oh, Tracy, why don't you sit down? Let me be up here. I could have explained that much faster. So this is really important to understand, and the reason it's in this chapter, how to use it, is because a lot of times we think on the human side, the way that I use the power of the universe is I keep begging and I keep begging and I keep begging and I keep waiting and I keep waiting and I just wait for it to happen. But no, how we use it is we remember it is instantaneously saying yes, and now my job is to live in a way that's in alignment with this yes. Because the more I live in alignment with it, the more the things that are going to show up. I'm clearing the path for it to do its work, for Spirit to provide the answer to my prayer. And so Ernest Holmes ends this page, or second to the last paragraph. The one who wishes scientifically to work out their problem must daily take the time to meditate and mentally treat the condition, no matter what the apparent contradictions may be. They are working silently in the law, and the law will find an outlet through this faith. This law is the law which puts the act into all action. It's the invisible actor working through us to will and to do. As a result of right treatment, the mold formed in the subjective mind by the treatment makes possible a concrete manifestation. This treatment is an intelligent energy in the invisible world. It's a spiritual entity working through the law of mind, and it is an actual force now consciously directed. Therefore, it must produce specific results. And this is a big part of the foundation of what we believe and know when we are saying or writing a prayer, or in our tradition, creating a spiritually grounded treatment for the mind and how to generate the results we want. So when you hear spiritual mind treatment, it's like it is a mental treatment that is designed specifically to change a condition, just like the tiny white pill that my doctor prescribes for me to take to change the condition of high blood pressure to normal controlled blood pressure. I take the pill, I expect it to work, I monitor my blood pressure, it is within the normal range. I take the pill, I expect it to work, I monitor my blood pressure, I eat healthy, I do the things I'm supposed to do. I see I'm in normal range, right? I take a spiritual mind treatment. When I go to Cindy and I say, Cindy, want a spiritual mind treatment, that my surgery on Monday on my finger goes well, I take her treatment, I believe it is working, The universe has already said yes instantaneously. There is no process that's happening. Cindy said it. I believe it. The universe has already done it. And tomorrow when I am in surgery, I have no worry, no fear. And the surgery goes beautifully. Yes, yes. Yeah, other hand. So it's not a game. This belief and this use of spiritual law, it's not a game, but it is a game changer. When you truly understand it and begin to incorporate it into who you are and how you are. So I have probably said at least one thing that either brought up an example in your own life or that you have a question about because, Tracy, that couldn't possibly be true. Or, Tracy, I really don't understand that. Can you say more? So we are going to do what we do every Sunday. We're going to open this up to some conversation. And I'm going to ask Ryan if he'll give instructions for anyone who hasn't heard them before.
Surely will. And good morning to everybody. And good morning, Dr. Tracy Brown. And happy Mother's Day to all those who are celebrating all around the globe. And thank you for joining us in community today. We really appreciate you all here. And as Tracy was mentioning, this is an engaging conversation, so we look for your participation. And there's a couple ways to do that. For the folks here in the room, I'm going to wave my magic baton, right? And then you can wave your magic baton, aka your left or right hand. And myself or the iconic Richard will help you with the microphone. And as always, we love volunteers here, so if you want to pass it on to the person next to you who has a burning desire or a question, then go ahead and do that as well. And for those folks who are joining us via Zoom, you can wave your magic baton, aka your raise your hand icon located down below, and we can bring you into the room. Or as always, you can put your question and comment inside of the chat, and I can bring that in as well. And for all the folks who are watching us all over the world, we appreciate you too on Facebook, and feel free to put your questions and comments in there as well, and I can bring that into the room. And I always like to remind folks that when you put it in the questions or comments field, I'll keep those anonymous so we can continue to have a safe container for spiritual growth. So I'm going to poll the audience here in the room. I'm looking you guys in the eyes. Anybody have a question or anything that you like to bring up? All right, here we go.
Be sure to say your name so
Yeah.
that everybody will know who you are.
Jerry here, and I just had a comment that earlier today I was speaking with a person about not doing meditations and mind treatments as often as they could, because they specifically mentioned your message, your talk last week. And we started talking, and we were like, well, it's easier to go and do a workout like at a gym or something, because there's generally always feedback. You know, the energy level is going to change, the endorphins are going to kick in. You may not see any muscles grow that day, but the physical feedback is there. And so we wind up just discussing that. That's where they say a lot, you have to hold the faith. So even though the spiritual mind treatment is fixed and set, there is a lot of times, we just talked about, it just takes more faith, I think, than working out, because there's not always immediate feedback that a person can see with their eyes and hear with their ears. That was my comment.
Oh, I love that comment. I love it and I hate it. I love it and I hate it. Oh my goodness. So sometimes I have to acknowledge it sometimes can feel like, oh, that treatment or that affirmation, it's like, oh, it's just words. And sometimes it actually is, you know, when we go to the gym and do a workout, we may have sweat or whatever, but we're not seeing the results. But we have faith that that sweat or that time spent is going to generate the results 30 days or 80 days or 200 days down the road. As we build our faith, our trust, and our belief, we actually will also start feeling the same way about a treatment or an affirmation. Like we actually can see it, feel it. The same way we get the physical feedback. So I love the comment because I think it's true, and I hate the comment because I think it's false. And so anything that's both true and false, the paradox of that usually is grounded in very much spiritual truth. Like it works both ways. And I love the reminder to look for the evidence that the treatment is working. Look for the evidence or the demonstration of the little pieces that are coming together. Because often what we do is we just look for the end result when we do prayer. We're just looking for the end result. Whereas when we go to the gym, we're looking for, oh, I sweated and I'm all sweaty and my heart's beating faster. Yeah, this is working. We don't wait until we've lost 15 pounds to say, oh, my workouts are working. And so we can begin to do the same thing with prayer and affirmations. What would be one small indicator that this is happening? And usually it's something that we do, not something that happens out here. Yes, good morning.
Good morning, Tracy. I'm Shauna. I love your pill analogy because we really do think that's going to happen. But I have another paradox. I was looking for a house for a long time in the last 2 years, and I just absolutely gave up because I said, the market's impossible. It's not going to happen. And then, so I was getting ready to do another rental, and my son came into town, and he said, "What are you doing?" And I explained to him why I was. And he said, "No, you're an owner. You need to have a house." And I explained all the reasons why I had given up. And long story, that day, he found the house I'm in right now. I mean, it was like a thunderbolt. And we found it in a place that neither one of us knew about. So I've told him he was a wonderful channel, but he didn't bring it. But the paradox for me is, really, I didn't believe it was going to happen. Mm-hmm. And, friends have said, okay, you gave up, but I didn't have faith in that moment. I really didn't.
In that moment.
But my son came along and said, there is a house for you. And that one day, he just put his finger in Zillow, we went, and that was it. I don't understand that paradox because I know inside of myself I had given up.
So how long had you been looking, desiring, preparing?
18 months.
18 months of laying the foundation and planting the seed and nurturing it is stronger than 18 days, right, or 18 hours.
Because I went back and looked at a list this past week. It exceeded the list I had written 2 years ago.
Of course.
Okay, so I have another thing that I've been holding with that kind of faith that I know has happened but hasn't manifested in my life. So I'm just confused about the paradox.
So this isn't actually paradox. This is, oh my gosh, how can I say this in 3 minutes instead of 30? Oh, come on. So what manifests in our lives manifests as a result of the dominant thought, the frequency of the thought, and the emotion around the thought. Okay, those things combined. And then they are happening in the context of collective consciousness as well. So what is the culture thinking, or what does my family think, or who am I influenced by? But the three primary things are the dominance of the thought, the frequency of the thought, and the emotion related to the thought. And so the frequency, the length of times in the human form, right, of this is what I want. I'm clear. This is what I want. Here's my list. And I'm focusing on that. Maybe I do a treasure map. Maybe I do affirmation. Maybe I do whatever I do. And that stays in my thoughts. It's dominant when I think about having a home, or when I think about traveling the world, or when I think about, like, it elevates itself to, oh, that's really important. How do I feel about it? I'm working on it, I'm working on it, I'm working on it, I'm putting attention to it. How do I feel about it? So then when we are sending mixed messages, right? Oh, I feel really like that's a great thing that's gonna happen. Or I feel like that's what I want, but I don't really believe it. I have doubt, or I have apathy. Yeah, that would be cool if it ever happened, but right now I'm focusing on this. All of those are always working in combination with one another. And then, as we read in this chapter, the universe has also got to match up everything else that has to happen. So I'm going to go back to the house example just because it's an easy one. So yeah, you gave up, but in your heart you really wanted to be a homeowner. The heart connection was there. Your human brain, your human analysis was that it's not going to happen. So I need to just go ahead and do another rental. That's all analysis. The universe is going like, yeah, whatever. You know, I know what you really want. For 2 years you've been telling me this. Your son had to come in and have the belief, the way that I go to a practitioner and say, ooh, I'm really having trouble believing that after the pandemic and all my business is gone, that it's going to come back fast enough. I had to have practitioners know it for me.
That really helps.
And then all of a sudden, in like less than 3 weeks, I had a year's worth of business, and my brain said, that shouldn't have happened. That shouldn't have happened. Nobody is hiring, consultants again yet. But it happened. And so it's all those things going on. It's not a direct line between A and B. It is to spirit, but we make it so hard. We make it so hard. Let's go online or Zoom.
Yeah, yes, on Zoom. Brenda, would you go ahead and unmute yourself, and we can have you join the conversation?
Good morning, Dr. Tracy and community. Oh, I miss you. I miss being there, but hopefully the surgeon on Monday will say the bone graft is good and I can be exposed again. So, boy, this really hits home, both in terms of long-term intent for the life I want and how easily it is for the human distractions to revert back to old patterns. So I have an immediate example that's pertinent. So for some years now, I have been putting forth a joyful, love-filled, peaceful, harmonious, healthy, vital, embodied life as my prayer. And I have been making great strides for that in the last several years. Just under a month ago, I had some major surgery, and I became a little lost in the pain and the process of healing, and I stopped some of my spiritual practices. And the first post-op check said, wow, you are healing better and faster than we expected. And I had a whole bunch of people doing treatment for me, and the doctor saying, given your tissues during surgery, I did not expect this degree of healing this far out. And it's like, well, of course, I know why that happened. I have all these people putting forth spiritual mind treatment for me, and I'm doing the work and the commitment to do the self-care. Now, post-op, one of my daily practices for love in my household and in my life is that I start my mornings and I end my nights and the hellos and goodbyes coming and going to work with the I love yous and the appreciations and the gratitudes and the caring. And so my husband switched job routines right in the middle of my, when I was having surgery and I was in pain, and he got absorbed in doing the extra work in the house and I got absorbed in doing the extra pain. And the hellos and the goodbyes and the good mornings and the good nights stopped.
Yep.
And within about a week and a half, I'm in misery saying, I'm reverting back to the old way, and I'm losing ground, and is the relationship in trouble, and blah, 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 all the negative old stuff. Sorry, I had to change that word there. All the old negative stuff. And by bringing that to consciousness and saying, hey, I'm feeling disconnected, I'm noticing I'm not doing these practices because I can only take care of myself. I can't say we're not doing these things. I'm not doing these things. And immediately my partner says, oh, yeah. And immediately we started, and in that moment it is done. And we are back to lovingness and connectedness and being supported in doing all that I want and need to do to have that joyful life. And amazing. So this is just an in my face, in this talk example, how little it takes to be distracted on the human level.
Yes.
But how powerful the intent followed
Yes.
by action can get back on track
Yes.
so rapidly.
Yes, yes, yes. And this is, Brenda, thank you. This is why we always open this up to conversation and examples and questions, because in the examples that Brenda just shared, she just really retaught everything that Ernest Holmes wrote. We have to use it, and we have to be able to distinguish between our human analysis and judgment. And it's not, well, Michael Bernard Beckwith says it's not discipline, it's blisscipline, right? These are the actions I take to generate and maintain bliss in my life. It's not discipline like I'm in trouble and I have to work so hard. And no, I love doing these things because they are the stones, the stepping stones are the foundation for building the life that I know I am worthy of, and the life that I have said I want to have. And we are having the human experience. And so it is, you should expect that there will be times when things are happening and you can't believe it. You can't believe what you want and need to believe. That's why we have community. That's why we have each other. That's why we have people in our Sangha, or people in that we've taken classes with, or licensed practitioners and spiritual coaches. That's why we have the community. And thank you, Brenda, for that beautiful example of observing self and bringing self back to what you know works.
I just wanted to comment.
And who are you?
Hi, I'm Carmen. I just wanted to say experience I have recently just had about what you're talking about. Spirit is actually disciplining me and teaching me things, getting clarity on things. And one of the things recently I got a vision of, it's like I didn't understand what is it, what's the meaning of the gap between you and what you're asking for. And that gap, it showed me when there's a gap there, what are you doing in the midst of that? Are you the one doing? Are you letting spirit, are you trusting the process of what you're asking for? And so that gap between what I'm asking for, myself, and what I'm asking for, it showed me how much I was doing in that gap, and how I was actually feeling while I was doing. It's very stressful, draining, and everything. So it showed me how to just let spirit fill in that gap, connect me to what I'm asking for, and it came to me because I went back. I started reverting back to my old way of thinking and doing, and so I'm so used to having been in the spiritual realm that I could tell a difference when I'm shifting.
Yep.
And so it gave an example of that gap between what I'm asking for and what I'm standing in, and to trust the process. Go back, trusting the process, trust me. And so it's teaching me something else and showing me that gap, and I didn't really get that. But anyway, so that's what I wanted to say, that about that gap between you and what you're asking for.
I love that. And the one tiny clarification I would make is that we are always doing something between where we are now and where we envision ourselves to be. But what you said that was critical was I was filling the gap with my old habits. Right?
Yes.
Fill the gap with your new habits of being in alignment with spirit, of doing the spiritual mind treatments or the affirmations, of looking for the demonstrations of progression toward that, instead of looking for all the ways it's not working, what's wrong with it, what I did wrong, what Kay did wrong, what Ryan did to get in my way. Like, let go of the old, because that piece in there, the universe has already said yes. How am I looking for the yes? How am I supporting the yes? That's the action that we want to take. And our time is like, we've got 2 minutes, so Shauna, be really, really, really quick.
So your word blissipin. So I know when I'm doing blissipin,
Blissipin?
instead of working hard.
Yes.
I know how to work hard. That's the old way, and make it
Yes.
happen and do it myself. The disciplines of bliss are totally different disciplines.
Yes. Yes,
So
yes,
that's
yes.
Carmen, that's really, and Tracy, that's really powerful.
Yes, yes. So I don't know how it happens, but it always happens. Our time is up before we can want to be done. Ryan?
And I'm going to steal the last moment because I have something important I want to say to everybody here in the room and online. I want to invite you to join in spiritual community. We have these home study groups that are going to be starting June 4th. It's called Journey to Awakening. They're going to be awesome.
Yes.
It's a way to take these spiritual practices into real life application in a group and community of fellow people just like yourselves. And so I just, as a reminder, sign up, start today. You can do it here on campus, or I'm going to be posting those inside of the chat as well too. Thank you.
Great. So if you are a mother, enjoy your Mother's Day today. I hope that will include joining us online or in person at 10:30 a.m. Central Time for our Sunday celebration, where we are going to be talking actually a little bit more about this in the context of what we can do to lay a spiritual foundation for mental and emotional health. Positive, effective, healthy mental and emotional health. And if you're on campus, please take 10 minutes and look at the art from Carol Williams, our Artist of the Month. There's some really beautiful pieces here, and I know that you will enjoy them, and maybe you'll want to take one of them home. That's all of the time we have for this Sunday. Next Sunday, Dr. Petra will be back for the Science of Mind Sunday class. Have a great day and week, everybody.